Hey everybody, it's Belle from Patrick Chicken Studio. It's Wednesday, so it's live from the studio. I always forget this in my lives, so I'm going to say it right now. You can find us on the web at patrickchickenstudio.com. And obviously you're here on our Facebook page, so you know how to find us there. We're on Instagram, Patrick Chicken Studio, and on Pinterest, Patrick Chicken Studio. So we are a collective of 3 artists. So I'm the owner of the business, and I do a lot of sewing. So I make the market totes, I make the bowl cozies, the hot pads, and a few other things here and there that I've done. And Nicole, my business partner, who lives down the road from me just a mile or so, makes our wonderful drawstring totes, and she's making our tortilla warmers. And my mother Pam is the third part of our collective, and she does our weaving and some knitting. She also is a quilter, photographer, weaver, crocheter, you name it. She keeps bees. So she's really busy. So anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. If you're watching on replay, do hashtag replay for me so I know that you were here. Share this video out if you thought it was interesting, or not. I don't really care. Just share us out. So I'm doing this on my phone tonight, and I'm not necessarily going to be able to see comments because I'm actually going to aim the phone down at my cutting board where I'm going to be working. And I'm sorry, the camera's wiggling. The cat is running around and he hit the cord of the camera and the tripod. Anyway, I thought I'd talk tonight a little bit about how we batch things to make them. And Pam doesn't do that as much, but Nicole and I do for sure. And so I could take you on a whole tour and show you how we batch things out in the studio. But I'm just going to work with one item tonight. I'm going to talk about hot pads. And the reason we batch the processing is that it means we can get through things a little bit quicker. If you think about a manufacturing, conglomerate, doesn't matter what they're making, widgets or cars, things run through a line and they actually produce a whole bunch of one part of it at one time and then do the next part of it, do a whole bunch, and then do the next part of it. And we do the same thing. So if I'm going to make hot pads, I cut out all kinds of stuff at once. At one time, I get that all cut out, marked, ready to go. And then the next step of the process after I've cut them out is that I iron those little sandwiches together. And then I quilt all of the sandwiches. So I'm going to have a big stack, 20 or 30 at one time. But I will sit and I will do them all and just get them all done. And then they go over to a different machine, and then that's where I do the final assembly with the denim. And so I don't have one because I was dumb and didn't grab them from my inventory. I don't have one to show you, but we use denim on the back of them and Insulbrite in the middle, and then there's a layer of cotton batting and cotton calico. So I want to show you kind of all of that process and talk about how we've done it and show you how I lay out the hot pads for that first part of that assembly. I won't go through making a whole one. We actually do have a video on our YouTube channel that shows you how they're made from beginning to end. So if you're curious about that process and what goes into making them, that's a great place to go and look for those. And you can just search for Patrick Chicken Studio and you will get right to our YouTube feed and go on over there and take a look. We have a lot of cool stuff over there. Some of these lives end up over there. All kinds of information about vintage sewing machines. Our Wednesday recipes show up over there. So we're pretty busy over here in Patrick Chicken Studio land with keeping posts on Facebook and being active on Pinterest and being active in groups and things like that. So you'll find us kind of hanging out here and there. But anyway, I'm going to face the camera down. So this might take a minute, and I hope I don't make you seasick or dizzy. But I want to make sure you can see my cutting table because that's where we're going to spend the rest of our time today. And I hear dogs barking, so it'll be a little noisy tonight. My neighbor has dogs, and my windows are right here, so I usually can hear him. So anyway, here we are. We're at the cutting board. I'm going to turn it just a little bit. I normally do this with a regular camera and my laptop, so it's a little different for me. So you see me doing things on my cutting board. If you've seen my videos, hang out a lot here. I spend a lot of time on the cutting board, but that's how we get stuff started. So anyway, the first thing I do is whenever I buy denim, and denim comes by the yard, so we buy it in big pieces. So this is about 1.5 yards or 2 yards. So we buy it by the bolt or by the cut, and then when I get home, I cut all the squares. So these are actually the back. There's the inside. So this is the back of the hot pad. And one of the reasons I cut them all, and you can see I have quite a few cut in here in different colors. I have some lighter denim and some darker denim. This one's really heavy denim. Kind of depends on what's on sale. The reason I cut them all is because I don't want to have to do this when I'm getting ready to do assembly. So when I buy that fabric, I pretty much immediately cut it into the squares and I keep it in this little bin. So all of them, they're in here. I don't want them to get curled up on the edges. So this bin is big enough so that they'll actually lay flat in here. If I pick one up and it's been curled up on the side, it's not going to construct quite properly. So I like to keep those in a bin that's big enough for them. But there's probably enough to do 20 pairs of hot pads in here. And I like doing it that way. I'm all set up. So again, this is a part of our assembly. If I'm going to cut, I'm not just going to cut one pair of hot pads and then go over and stitch it all. I'm going to cut everything at one time and get it all done. The inside of our hot pads have Insulbrite in them. And so Insulbrite is this sort of, it's a padded mesh, metal mesh. There's metal mesh in here. And this is what keeps you from burning your hands when you're getting your pots out of the oven and stuff. And you can't really see it all. It's a little bit shiny. That's really the only way you know that's in there. But this is also why you don't put hot pads in the microwave. But I cut these, and so you notice these denim pieces are bigger than these Insulbrite pieces, and that's on purpose. So the denim is cut to 9 inches because that's the outside and then comes up over the edge. So those are 9 inches. But the hot pad itself is about 8 inches, so these are 7.5 inches, so it'll fit inside that sort of denim pocket that I'm making. So these are all cut, so I have a whole bin of these. These doesn't matter if they get curly on the edges, but this bin does hold them. So again, I bought a big bunch of this, yards and yards of it, and then I stand here and I cut it. And I have all my pieces here, so now I don't have to stop and cut enough to do one pair of hot pads. I already have what I need already cut out. And then I have a bin that holds all of my, I should show you these too. You know those little loops on the hot pads so you can hang them up? There they are. So I sew these ahead of time and then I just cut them as I go. So this is 9 inches and I can get 3 tabs, 3 loops out of that. So I keep these in here. Depending what color hot pad I'm doing, it might be the lighter color, it might be the darker color, but I have all these tabs ready to go. For sewing, and again in a bin, so I know exactly where these are and I can just gather all my stuff and sit down by the sewing machine and work. So fabric that I have for hot pads I keep in this bin. I'm always finding things. It's sort of a never-ending, like I've got enough stuff in here to make hot pads for about 4 years. I swear, maybe 3 years. I have a lot of really cool stuff. I'll see some really pretty fabric and I'm like, okay, gotta have that, gotta have that. Oh, I gotta have that. I'm gonna show you 2 pieces of fabric I just got this last week because I gotta have that. Look at that. Is that not adorable? Love this. So this will make hot pads, these little boots. I just love it. And then this, Bomb Pops. We all love a Bomb Pop. So anyway, I just got these and they have to be hot pads. But I have a lot of fabric that I just pick up. You know, it's like, oh yeah, that'd make a great hot pad. Here's little dachshunds, little wiener dogs. It's a really pretty green and cactuses. This is going to be really cute. But I already have like 4 different kinds of doggy hot pads, so I may wait on that one. And this is a piece of teapot fabric. I had some originally and made some and sold them, and now I found some more, so I'm happy about that. But you can see this bin is full. There's enough here for 1 more pair of hot pads, but I sold the heck out of these. I think we sold 24 pairs of hot pads with this particular sunflower fabric. And we've got mushrooms. This is fabric left over from Market Totes, so that's a Cocopelli. There's sort of an Aztec design and more Cocopelli This one is like kitchen. It's all about bread. Bread and baking. Woohoo! And some bandana fabric. More patriotic trucks. So we have a lot of fabric in here. I could just keep making hot pads all day long. And at the bottom are some Christmas fabrics that we'll be doing this year. This one is cactuses and Santa hats. Ha! And I have a lot of other ones. There's candy. There's gingerbreads. Avocados for Christmas. Hot cocoa. And Christmas llamas. So we've got some really cool things to make this fall. There's candy canes and of course our buffalo plaids. So I have a lot to work on and there's all kinds of good stuff in here. But I'm going to show you how I lay these out. So these I do not cut. I don't need to cut because I'm going to cut them as I make the sandwich for the quilt. And we're going to do the little boots today. And I would normally cut out until I ran out of fabric, out of backing fabric. So this is a process to get these all cut out. But I start with plain old cotton muslin. So this has already been split down the middle because it comes at 36 inches wide, and I only use 18 inches for a hot pad. So I split it, so I have two long, this is all folded up. This is a long piece of fabric. But this is the backing. And so I will start working with just this long piece and just keep going until I run out. And I'm making a sandwich. That's the way a quilt works. So a sandwich, there's a top, there's a bottom, there's something in the middle. Well, this is our bottom. And I have my muslin laid out there, and then we use cotton batting. So this is, you can buy this on rolls, you can buy it in a package. I tend to buy a package because I get more cuts out of it. So queen size quilt batting, cotton quilt batting will take me a long way. So I'm going to lay this out, and you can see I've got a big piece of this, so I could go on for quite a while tonight if I really wanted to. And I'm going to smooth this out. And this is my sandwich, and you can see I don't cut very straight. But that's okay. I know that my cotton muslin is right back here. And I'm right on the edge of my cutting board. They call these a self-healing cutting board because you can keep using those rotary cutters on them and not make them dull. Eventually they get cut up pretty bad. But so here is my little cowboy boots. And what I'm cutting to make sandwiches is 9 inches. So I have enough cowboy fabric to do 9 inches times 2. There's 18 inches of fabric here. So this will make 2 pairs of hot pads. So this will be 1 pair of hot pads, and this will be 1 pair of hot pads. So I got it all laid out. I've got my batting, my fabric all laid out. And I use a long ruler. These are specially made for cutting these long lines on these cutting boards, and it gives you a straight line. So I'm going to measure over 9 inches, and if I don't talk while I do it, I won't make a mistake. If I talk while I do it, who knows? But so I'm going to cut this one, and then I'm going to come over here another 9 inches, and I'm going to cut this one. So now I have 2 done already, right here. So there's 1 pair of hot pads, and here's a second pair of hot pads. So I've got this one set done. Now I've still got fabric laying here, so I can keep going, which is what I'm going to do. So I have 18 inches to the end of my board. And this fabric, unfortunately, is not enough for 2 pairs of hot pads. So, or yeah, it is, but it's not wide, it's long. So I'm going to, this one is folded. There's a fold here. I'm going to cut this one on the fold so I have 2 pieces, and that'll be easier for me to cut. So all the all the tools, I have a lot of tools over here. They all have a purpose. Use things for different things. I also have different rulers, and I have different rotary cutters. So I have a rotary cutter that does pinking, or a, you know, kind of a ragged edge. And I have ones that I only use if I'm cutting paper. I mark it, so I know I'm only using it for paper. So all the tools, got to keep all the tools handy. So I have my two pieces here, so I'm going to go ahead and lay this one out. And I'm going to cut this one at 9 inches. So this one will be 9 inches wide, just like the cowboy boots were. And I'm going to put it over here with my cowboy boots. So now I have 3 pairs of hot pads ready to quilt. And then this piece, I may use it for something else. A little left over there. And now this one, I'm going to cut again at 9 inches. And I'll have a little piece left over there. And it has to be 9 inches, even though it really ends up being 7.5 inches when I'm done with it. I need enough extra there for it to pull up, because when you quilt things, they pull up, they draw up a little bit. And I want to have enough to cut straight. Some of the fabrics we use have a geometric pattern to them, and I don't want to have a problem later because I cut it a little bit crooked. So if it's a little bit crooked, I have space to straighten it out when I cut it. So we're going to roll out more of the muslin. So I did 4 already, and I'm going to do 4 more. So there's my muslin, which wants to move. And here's my cotton batting. So that goes down next. Just a sandwich, which just makes me hungry. I haven't had dinner yet. So let's pick another fabric out of our bin. That one's too big. That one's smaller. All right, let's use our baked goods one. So again, this one is 1 long strip. It is 9 inches wide. That's what I bought it at, 1/4 of a yard. So I'm going to split this one so I can get 2 out of there, or 2 pairs. So here's one. And when they're like this, they're already 9 inches. I can just lay them next to one another. I don't have to do them separately. And if you wonder what I do with some of the ends after I cut these, that's where our bookmarks come from. So when you get a bookmark from us, that's how it happened. Because we used that leftover piece to make the bookmark. I'm going to cut this one. Cut that one very good. And then this one, we could cut it 9 inches as well. And there is this little overlap of pieces because I laid them right next to one another. And there's that. And then I have enough batting and muslin to do 2 more. So we're going to pick out another piece. I think we'll look at this Coco Pelly one. This one's going to be dicey. I think I'll try a different one. Aha! We have a tote bag made with this. This is that. So I've been calling it a Mexicana print. So this one is nice. So this one is more than a half a yard. Which means more than 2 times 9, but that's okay. I'll use the scraps for something else. So I'm going to lay this one out. And I'm going to cut it 9 inches. And this one at 9 inches. So now I've made myself, just in this little short amount of time, I have sandwiches now made for 8 pairs of hot pads. And that's a good start. And this is the way I normally do it. So I would keep going. I have more batting. And I would just keep going until I got it all done. To me, that's kind of fun. I'm going to pop the camera back up a little bit. Maybe. Whoop. My little camera stand is not very helpful. Oh, Nicole, you can have them. They're at least 3 inches. Let's see. Let's see. They are almost 4 inches. So yeah, I think the bomb pops are cute. You can absolutely have those. But anyway, this is what we mean when we talk about assembly line. So we're making all of all the parts, right? So I'm cutting out all the denim. I'm cutting out the Insulbrite. I'm cutting out the fabric for the loops, stitching the loops so they're all ready to go. And then I'm doing the sandwiching of the actual quilted tops. So I can sit down then with this big stack of ones, and I would do way more than this. I'd probably do 20 to 30 at a time. 8 is a start. I can make all of these in a night. So I would sit down with that big stack. I would sort them by color because I quilt with thread that matches the fabric. And so if I have a whole bunch of fabric that's red, white, and blue, I may decide I'm going to do them all with red stitching. I'm going to do all those at the same time. So I'm going to run through all of those ones that take the red thread. And then I'm going to switch to ones that I'll take black thread, or I'll take white thread, or I'll take green, whatever it is. So I'm really cutting down on having to change the thread very often. I'm cutting down on, oh, let me jump up and lay out one more and cut this one out. Or, oh, I ran out of denim, let me cut that one out. I want to make sure I have all that done together, all at one time. Then I'm ready to sit down and sew. The sewing is the fun part. This part I don't like. I have told people that I hate to cut. I hate to iron, and these have to be ironed too. I actually iron these little sandwiches. It helps them to stick together while I'm quilting. But yeah, I don't like this part. But the finished product is so nice that to me it's wonderful and it's worth it. So anyway, I hope that explains a little bit about how I got dust in my nose from cutting. See, I told you I don't like cutting. It makes me sneeze. But we do a lot of our stuff this way when I'm doing bowl cozies. It's the same thing. When I buy backing fabric for bowl cozies, when I get it home, I stand here and I cut all those squares at 11.5 inches. That's the cut. And I stand here and I cut them all, and they're all in a bin, kind of layered in there, like lined up in there like file folders, like books. All the reds, all the blues, all the greens, all the browns, all the blacks, all together, so that when I'm ready to work, I just have to grab, oh, I need 12 of these, or I need 15 of these, or not 15, 16, it's always an even number, or I only need 2 of these, and I pull those out. They're all ready to go because I cut them and they're just sitting there waiting. I do the same thing with the fabric, the canvas fabric we use on the top of those. I cut all those into squares and keep them in a bin that's very similar to this one, because it holds them just right. And then I can sit down and work with it. And I spend the first part of the process after cutting, I have to mark where I'm going to sew the darts. So I sit down and make all the marks. Sometimes I'm watching a baseball game when I do that because it's boring. But I sit down and make all those marks. Then I stitch all the darts. So I may have a huge stack. Again, I make them in dozens and dozens at a time. and I'm trying to combine the ones that all have the same thread color in the same stack, so that I'm not changing the thread out in between bow cozies or hot pants. And then I will sit down and I'll stitch all the darts. And then another day, I will do the construction. So doing that, because I'm doing these in batches, doing all of the prep work ahead of time, makes it quicker to actually do the construction of the actual item. So hopefully that makes sense. I did work in a factory when I was young. I was in college. And I cannot tell you anything's more boring than that. It made me want to do better things. And thank God there are people that work in manufacturing and don't mind it. But boy, it was hard, because you're doing the same thing, piecework. You know, you're doing however many an hour, 15 hours, 100 an hour, 12 an hour, depending on what you were working on. And that's your day, for day after day after day after day. And you don't get to go do something else. It's this thing. So I have great respect because I've done it. But we were doing the same thing. That thing that I was assembling or, working on, creating, was one part of what was an end product. And so there'd be all of us doing these batches. But then my parts, when they were done, that bin went over to manufacturing to get actually put into the final product. And I had spent all that time making that one part. And so this processing type work is what I'm used to. And my day job is in IT. We also believe in process, because process helps to shortcut how long it takes to do something. So anyway, hopefully this was interesting. Again, if you're watching on replay, #replay for me. Check us out on the web, patrickchickenstudio.com, YouTube, Patrick Chicken Studio, Facebook, Patrick Chicken Studio, Pinterest, Patrick Chicken Studio. Same for Instagram. We're out there everywhere. Check out our Wednesday recipes. We are having a lot of fun with those. Hopefully they've been things you've wanted to try, but every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. we post a recipe. It shows up on our YouTube channel as well. It does eventually end up in Pinterest. Pinterest doesn't let us schedule very nicely, so we do those manually, but I do try to get them uploaded into there, but you can always find those. This past week was eggs in purgatory. This morning, eggs in purgatory, which is a wonderful summer dish. I love them. They're the easiest thing, and they don't heat up your kitchen, and they're so delicious. I mean, I can eat eggs any old way, but yes. So check it out if you haven't seen it. Just scroll through our Facebook feed and you'll find it, and it's also should already be over on YouTube. So anyway, we're coming up on 7 o'clock. I hope everybody's having a good night. Share if you would like, and I will talk to you next week for Wednesday in the studio.